Casey, how long has it been?
Man, I think it's been a couple of weeks. How
At least, right?
is that right?
Well, we had New Year's, Christmas, and the week before that. So.
Wait, no, we had Christmas Eve, then Christmas, then New Year's.
Oh, I was going backwards from now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but it's been a little while since we had a video together.
Oh. It's on. So, hey everyone. So, welcome back to Disciple Making Parent with Casey and I. It's been a couple of weeks as we were just kind of talking about.
Yeah.
So the last time that we were together, we talked about Lewis and Clark.
Wait, what?
Lewis and Clark.
Is that what we talked about?
Yeah. Well, I say Lewis and Clark mainly because it's like take the land. We're preparing our children to take the land, to own their faith.
Okay.
And so that's
I
at least what
remember.
first prompted into my mind. Like
I remember. Lewis and Clark mentality.
That's right. It's a mentality. It's not actually talking about Lewis and Clark.
Right.
Yeah. So chapter 18 is where we were. Today, we're going to be talking about enjoying life and not loving the world. So, wait, hold on. That's not it. What is it? Enjoying the life, but not loving the world. It is.
Enjoying life, but not loving the world.
Huh.
And we're supposed to teach our kids to do that? I wonder if that's something that we've mastered ourselves as a parent. So, yeah, talk to me about that. What is that?
I think we know how to enjoy life pretty well.
Yeah?
But do we know how to not love the world?
Well, can we quickly, what is the world? When we say that, what do we refer to?
It's a good question because I think it can have multiple meanings.
Yeah.
You know, because when I first think of the world, naturally, I don't know why I think this, but it naturally comes off as like evil, bad, like sinful.
Right.
But then as you kind of take some time and look at it and go, well, God created the world.
Right.
And he saw that it was good when he first created it. You know, he created all the things in it and the people. And so we're called to go and to love one another.
Right.
And so those are things that are in the world. So that's a really tough definition.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, chapter 19, it has a little part that it does spend a little time, kind of explaining this definition of the world, for us to understand. Because when and this is what I think sometimes, when we hear the word, the world, that's hard to say back to back. The word, the world, I think about, I don't know, I think about what you said, but like how we, just choosing yourself, being sinful, being selfish, being whatever makes me feel good, that's what I'm going to pursue. That's kind of that terminology of the world. When we say don't love the world, at least as a Christian, I know Christians talk. That's kind of I think the thing, and I also think that that's what the book alluded to. So we're going to kind of maybe redefine that or define it differently. Enjoying life, which is what God gave us, the gift of life. He put us here on the earth to enjoy it, to be a part of it. But how do we not pursue worldliness, the world, our sinful, selfish selves?
That's a lot of definitions.
Wait.
Uh-oh.
Not just how we not do it. I think we're supposed to be disciple-making parenting. So it's like, how do we
teach our kids to do this?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, first, I think we need to know how to do it ourselves.
Right.
In order to be able to teach anything. But I think that with all these different definitions, trying to love the world or not love the world.
Not love the world.
Enjoy
life.
Yeah, enjoy life and not live in the world.
Not love the world.
So, I think I've messed up multiple times.
No, you haven't messed up. Perfect. Right on cue.
Christians to love the world. Let's see that.
Are we starting over, or are we just going to cut it out?
I had wanted to start it over like 4 times.
No, we're not starting over. Let's keep rolling. We'll just gap this out. I don't know. I guess we should have just gone faster into the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Well, it says the Christian is to love the world. That goes against everything we just said.
So let's just start with that. We could cut it and go and do it turned off, or I can just cut it out. But I think if we just start with that and keep the beginning, we can just stick it together. People do it all the time. You don't want to? You want to start all the way over?
I kind of do, but...
All right. If that's what makes you feel better.
I thought it was pretty good up there. Then I felt like I just lost place.
I think it was really good. That's why I don't want to redo it.
Yeah.
I just want to go from maybe we just kind of like look at each other like we were, and then go with kind of a bold statement, like almost like we paused. And I'll just find a pause that we paused before because we haven't moved.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't be that noticeable. That's my take. What did you refer to?
No, question number 1.
The Christian is to love the world? I can take that one.
But we just said we're not to love the world. We're to enjoy it.
Okay, ask me. So just say, I don't know, you were talking. So let's go back to you and say, maybe you could set that up. Just say, so the book talks about there's 3 different ways to love the world. And the first one is the Christian is to love the world. But that seems counter. And I think I have the answer. So you got to be thinking about number 2 while I'm talking.
And you're going to splice it?
Yeah.
All right. That works.
Well, if we do it today and I go look at it today or tomorrow and it doesn't work, maybe we can do it again tomorrow.
Okay. Or we just do it all over again.
If that's what you want.
Do you think we can actually do it?
Yeah.
All right.
I really do. It's not hard for me to edit and splice it like that. Find the perfect moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nicole is awesome. Take 2.
That's right. Blooper out.
Yeah.
So here it says here that the Christian is to love the world, but based on what you just said, you were talking about enjoying life and not loving the world. So like this first question we wanted to talk about disciple making parent, for us to understand how really it works so that we can teach our kids how to do this well.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of seems counterintuitive of like, how are we to love the world whenever we're supposed to not love the world? Those are,
Right.
Opposites at the very least.
Right. The chapter title is enjoying life but not loving the world. And yet our first point is
Love the world.
Christian love the world.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that the book referred to that really captured the essence of this for me, and I was thinking a lot about this, is John 3:16. It says, "For God so loved the world." And what does that verse mean? What did God mean when he had, John write that down and record that for us to, as the people of God, people reading the Bible, to think about it? And I think, the point of it is to love the people of the world. To love the world means we love all the peoples across this globe, and not just our own family or not just our own friends, not just the people we choose to love, but to look outside of our circles of influence, looking for other people at maybe the gas station, or looking for other people as we travel, or even, I know this is a bigger thing that some people attempt to try to teach their kids in traveling, is that take the gospel as you go, no matter where you're traveling, that you have the ability to influence people, but you have to be willing to love them, to see past what maybe they're doing wrong. Like, here's just a quick example. Sometimes when we're traveling around Fort Worth, we'll see someone at the red light begging for money or asking for anything that we're willing to give them. And it's an opportunity that we try to take to say, we don't know what brought that person to this corner. They legitimately could be going through huge life struggles.
Oh,
I mean,
moments,
the skeptical mind might think, no, this person's just standing there because they're making money. They're getting free money and they're not wanting to work for it. But loving the world, I think, always takes this other side and says, I don't know where that person's been or what's going on in their life. And if I have something, it's up to God what they do with it, but I'm going to bless them with Jesus' name and do it in an intentional way. Maybe don't just hand them $20 cash, but sometimes I've heard of people, turning a circle, going over to McDonald's, bringing back a food, or some people carry blessing bags in their car. They grab that from the back.
That's something my family usually does.
Yeah.
Mainly my wife is much better at this than I am. But she has like one of those blessing bags that has like a bottle of water, some fresh socks in them, and a bunch of different snacks and things of that sort, and maybe a little like letter or a note.
Right.
But you made a really good point there, because it says like we're not to love the world, and our natural inclination, especially growing up in the church, is to we're not to love the world, we're to be different from the world. And I think that's actually going to some of the later points. But John 3:16 as a verse that we all know and have grown up memorizing and knowing.
Right.
For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Like, God loved the world even though it was dark,
right,
and it was sinful, you know, as it's not to love the world right now, but ultimately he still did.
right,
And so it's to try and have that perspective and that mentality. We're not able to save. We're not able to do what he and his Son has done. But what we can do is we can love the people of the world,
right,
to push them and try and engage them,
yeah,
so they have an opportunity to be loved by the one who created the world.
right,
And so I think that goes really right next into our next question of how do we enjoy the world? And I think that this is something that really is a hard line, because whenever we first think of this, we think of, well, you know, I'm going to do this, or this action is going to be it, or this car is going to be it.
Sometimes, like, people say, eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah.
Right?
Those slogans, all those different things.
Yeah.
That's how you enjoy it. But I also want to be real, too, is that being a Christian means that we're going to suffer in this world. But you know what? We do have some really great things, especially us living here in America, in Texas, in Fort Worth. I mean, to be very specific about it, where we're at.
Right.
How do we enjoy the world? Well, I think we can first take some of the fruits from it, but also we give into it. One of the most satisfying things I think in this life is to serve.
Right.
And so the other part of it is it's not bad to have things. It's bad to have things that control you. And so, you know what? Different things are great to have. Like vehicles, for example, man, they can be an amazing tool for ministry.
Right.
They can also be an idol that could be worshipped.
Sure.
And so I think that's what, houses, any of this.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it comes to kids, toys, students, their first car, you know, let's put the sound system in there. Oh, sound, yeah. These cell phones, all of these different things.
Right.
The thing about it is the things in this world can very quickly become idols. But we have to have the right perspective of it.
Right.
And that's how we can, I think, enjoy the creation that God has given us, is by using it in the way in which it was designed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, walks on the beach, flowers that you can smell, listening to the birds, all of those things are things that don't cost a dime that God put here for our enjoyment of this world. It's just in each one of these questions, as you posed it, you know, or there is a negative side where we can love the world so much that it takes us away, or we can enjoy the world in a way that's not how God intended it, you know. And so the goal in each of these, as someone that pursues God, is what does God want us? How does he want us to pursue this world, or how does he want us to love this world? How does God want us to enjoy this world? And not the ways that he didn't create for us, you know, to enjoy the world. So the third one, the last thing that it was kind of talking about, question is, how do we resist the world? Or Christians should resist the world. And again, that's just a big question of, wait, we're supposed to love the world. We're supposed to enjoy the world. But now the third point in this chapter talked about resisting the world.
I think that's why it makes it so tricky
for
all of us, even us as parents, trying to understand.
Sure.
Of like, how are we able to do all of these three things in unison? Because I think a lot of us will segment these things out.
Yeah.
Of saying, well, I can do this here, and I can do this here.
Right.
So I can love the world this way, I can enjoy the world this way, and I can resist the world this way. And that puts us into, in a way, a legalistic box of saying, well, I can do this at this time, but if I don't do this at this time, then I'm outside of my bounds.
Right.
And I think that's where this gray comes in. I know we've talked about it a couple of times before,
right,
is having black and white versus gray. This is not one of those things that are black and white. Just like, you know, the things of this world, walks on the beach and different things that we can enjoy in this world, we can also make idols.
Yeah.
And so where's that fine line?
Right. Man, I wish I knew. And maybe, you know, I think that this is no, it was a great question. And I think these are the questions that I want you to ask me, and I want us to be able to ask you guys that are out there. This is the question: how do we actually do this?
Yeah.
I mean, because parenting, there's no perfect answer. Every child's different. I mean, you guys know that. In parenting my children, 3 girls, they're all different. And so I have to really think about, one, resists things differently or enjoys things differently. And so, I think with all of that is we have to take into account who we're talking to. If it's just me, I know some ways I could learn to resist the world, enjoy the world, and even love the world better in a way that honors God. Because I think this third one of resisting the world for me is sometimes I think only in, what benefits my family, what makes us more money, or what makes us have more fun this year, what makes 2021 better, what can we do better this year for birthdays or gifts, or we just finished Christmas, so some of us may have a slew of gifts we don't even know what to do with, and sometimes and so just real quick, some of the things we did this year was before Christmas, we just took a little bit of time to kind of clean out some things and saying, we already feel like we have too much. And our goal in this world is not just to collect, right?
Oh, man.
And
you're
so,
like speaking to my heart right now, because that's literally what we're doing right now in
right.
my household.
Well, then once Christmas passes, I think, and then you're cleaning up, maybe Christmas, cleaning up the house, then sometimes you do that as well. And we had to do it after actually as well, which is probably all of us. We have a little bit of too many things and we don't know what to do with them. And so, okay, when that comes up, how do we give with the right spirit? It's not that we're making more room for our bigger toys. It's what are some ways we could bless someone else? Everything doesn't need to go in the trash. We could give to someone, bless someone, or some of the easiest ways is just to take it to Goodwill or take it to some donation place. But, again, resisting the world is not just saying, oh, now we have, 20 Xbox games. I don't want to get rid of any of them. I love them all. I'm going to keep them all, or whatever it is, and just collecting. Because I think that is sometimes counter to what God's called us to do. Hold loosely to our things. Hold tightly to what God's called us to do.
And that's a hard thing to teach our kids. I have an example over the last couple of weeks. We were on a vacation, and my little girl got those. So where you put a penny in and you put 2 quarters in because they don't do it for free,
right?
And then you crank this thing and it goes in and it pressures on the penny, like an image. And so this specific one I think was of the Grinch of all things. It was great. But my little daughter got a couple of those, and she was almost inseparable with these little
she
coins.
loved it.
Oh, she loved it.
Yeah.
To the point where it was like idolization. And I mean, she's 3 years old, so I don't necessarily think that she knows what that really means.
Yeah.
But in the same way, it's a great image of how do we resist the world? The love of money. That's really the beginning of evil there, the root of evil there. But so the love of money compared to using money in order to get something as as an exchange. And so I was just thinking of that, how do we resist the world? Well, it's kind of, that is a good example of sometimes we have so much stuff that we just want to hold on to because it means this, or it has this value, or whatever this is.
Isn't there a scripture passage that talks about that?
I think
the guy that wants to just build bigger barns, and keep storing it, and what Jesus says, you fool.
Oh, yeah.
This night your soul is going to be required of you. And I think, that's kind of what the point you were going towards.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of where we can maybe have some clarity in this is what are we loving and what are we doing things for?
Right.
And so are we doing things for, because we can have the church answer of we're doing everything for Christ. But the reality is, are we doing that to not glorify ourselves, but glorify Him? And are we doing it in order to love our neighbor as ourselves? I mean, those are the 2 greatest commandments, is to love God and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. I think when it comes to the world, how do we resist the world? Well, we begin to put those 2 things back into perspective.
Right.
Because a lot of what is bad in the world is our own sin. And it starts really ultimately with us.
Right.
And so if we can begin to be less selfish and less idling of ourselves, then we can begin to focus in and be intentional with what God has gifted us. We can rest in who He is as our personal Savior and Lord, and we can begin to minister to others. And so when it comes to how do we talk about this and teach this to our kids, I think that's at least a starting point.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think that's going to be, kind of a cloud to start off with.
Well,
but
what I was
eventually will
thinking
show
as
its
you were
image.
saying that is
Yeah.
if you begin asking any of these questions or having these discussions with your children, I think you're on track.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing is if we're, like my story of if you're just cleaning out one or two things with the right mindset, man, then I think you're on track. If you're asking any of these questions, how can we love the world better as a family by choosing to love God first? Or how do we resist the world in a way that is helping our family pursue godliness? You know, those are really tough questions. Obviously, we kind of hinted to that and maybe showed that today during our video of just saying, whoa, that's a hard one to answer. And so if you're asking these questions, you're on the right track. And that's the goal of disciple making parent, is just moving in that direction, because we're not instantly tomorrow or today or whatever day we pick up this book and read it gonna become this perfect parent.
I don't think that will ever happen.
No.
But I think the 2 points that you just made were so spot on.
It's a process.
And it's a process. It's something that even when our kids are old and grown,
right.
This is going to be something that we're going to still be working on and
sure.
working through.
Right.
A lot of this, I think, is a sanctification of ourselves, growing in our own relationship with the Lord, and then using that to pass on what we have learned, to teach them to obey all that God's commanded. I mean, He's commanded us, and He's teaching us things. And we're now, as a parent, supposed to be passing it on to new believers or our children.
Man, I think that's such a good segue into what we're talking about next week. So next week, we're going to be jumping into teaching your children to pray. And I think that's it's going to be an interesting topic to come out of this chapter 19 and then into chapter 20, teaching your children to pray and being that example. So if we haven't said it yet, we hope you have a happy new year. I know we're already weeks into it, but again, thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you next week for chapter 20, teaching your children to pray.